For this video, I'm going to transform my friend's favorite Disney characters into a dark style, because, well, I'm not exactly a big Disney fan. In fact, I hate the company, so twisting their characters in a dark way sounds like a pretty nice idea to me. So I went to my friends and I asked them which were their favorite characters. Then I picked some references and I started ideating and drawing them. I started with Elsa, easily one of Disney's most famous characters, with one of the most iconic songs out there. In short, the movie was a complete success. What I decided to do here was to start off gently, without changing the character too much, planning to go darker and darker with each character I make, so that the last one ends up being the darkest of them all, so dark that echo in your mind. Or at least that's the plan. The biggest trick here was to tilt Elsa's head slightly downward, with a 3/4 view, to clearly show her features. Then I made her look directly at the camera, or what would be the camera if this were a photo. This creates an aggressive gaze, which combined with the added dark circles under her eyes, gives her a more serious tone. Then you smudge her eye makeup as if she had been crying. This helps create a certain mood and a bit of backstory, making it feel like something bad happened that made her cry. Finally, that little smile, paired with those defiant eyes, adds even more context and leaves the interpretation completely up to you, to decide what the hell happened to Elsa for her to end up like this. Here, the worst part for me was the braid, and anyone who draws can relate to this. Drawing braided hair is hard. Even though I tried to do my best, I think it turned out a little bit off, kind of like a pretzel. At least it's kind of convincing. The best part here is the eyes. I think they came out really well and very expressive. You can see the intention and the feeling that the character has, principally thanks to the eyes. So after 2 hours of drawing and painting, this is how it turned out. And let me say that this is a really good one. I think it's really great, the slight dark shift on the style. It's not too dark, and it's like a more serious mood that gives a lot of open paths in the narrative. Let's move to the next one, that is Flynn from Tangled. This one is also really popular, and I've always loved seeing the whole process of creating Flynn, where they brought together all the women in the studio to talk about what traits they found most attractive in a man. I have to say, this method of creating the character worked out really well, considering he is one of the Disney characters people find most attractive. Here, my intention is to have a style similar to Elsa's, but add wounds to give him even more seriousness. Also, instead of looking straight at the camera, he avoids eye contact. His gaze is unfocused, which gives a different context, a different emotion. This kind of looks suggest evasion, and if we lower his eyelids as if he is tired, it creates a sense of indifference, as though he no longer cares about anything. As you can see, eyes are incredibly useful for conveying and expressing emotions. And emotions are great for building storytelling. Thinking about these details and executing them is very important when making these drawings. You might execute the drawing better or worse, but the feeling, the story is there, and that alone gives the painting value and makes it interesting, ensuring people at least won't remain indifferent. As I've been saying, this is a good example of that, because I'm sure many people can tell it's not a perfectly executed painting, or at least it's not as good as my normal skill, yet they're intrigued. Why is he wounded? Why does he seem so indifferent despite the injuries? Basically, the goal is for whoever sees it to start asking questions and thinking about it. At least that's what I'm trying, and I hope I achieved it. And after 1 hour and a half of work, this is how it turned out, and I like it. It's not a polished render, actually is a sketchy one, but that doesn't matter. The feeling and the vibe is there. Talking about storytelling and feelings, I think that the next one is the best that I have done in this video that uses that very well, and that is B.E.N from Treasure Planet. Weirdly enough, I don't know the character and I haven't watched the movie, so the fact that this is the one where I managed to get the best expression of emotion and storytelling is pretty funny. With this one, we're stepping into a darker territory, more fitting for the theme of the video. Here I mainly played with the fact that it's a robot, dismantling it a bit to get a sense of age and also danger. Something must have happened to the robot to be in such a deplorable state. Then there's a blood stain that suggests many things, but most important, it amplifies the sense of danger. Something very dangerous has happened here, even violent, you could say. Also, adding corrosion and some damage that mimics the scars helps to support what we already propounded. Then I decided to do something I found quite effective. I painted each tooth separately, making the gaps between them and making them slightly irregular. This is really helpful when you want to create a feeling of discomfort. I was aiming for a desolate, sad and dangerous atmosphere. I wanted you to feel both sadness and discomfort when seeing this character in this state, making you wonder what story lies behind this image, and I hope I achieved that. I really like the fact that the eyes are slightly lit, as if they still had some energy. This adds interesting focal points to the image, giving the viewer an easy starting point for looking the image. Then the little splash of blood on the brightness on the eyes makes it even more interesting, because that light lights the blood in a bright red, which is a really good color to use as a focal point here. So after an hour and a half, it came out like this, and I have to say that I am very happy. I think I achieved the look that I was searching, this feeling of uncertainty while watching this poor machine that probably had a very bad experience. Hey, listen! Remember that I do all this alone, so a like and subscribe, it helps me a lot. Thank you! Here we are already getting close to the end, with the next one being Simba from The Lion King, one of Disney's greatest classics. The music and songs, the animation, the characters, the landscape, the story, everything here is so well done, and I think it's safe to say this movie was perfect, flawless. Everything was created at outstanding level, and not only that, you can feel the love and dedication that went into it, which makes a huge difference because when things are made with care, it really shows. Which clearly doesn't show in my drawing. I didn't put much care or attention into it. Honestly, this is the one I like the least. The idea I had was interesting, but the execution was poor, and I do have an excuse for that. I made this at 3 in the morning because I couldn't sleep from the heat, and I decided to work on it so I wouldn't waste time. The idea here was to make a more scary Simba, showing him in a more feral state, with scars and blood-stained mouth, making him look more dangerous and terrifying, stripping away that aura of goodness, of being the hero of the story and giving him more of a villainous vibe. Around 1 hour after of painting, this is the result, and you can see that this is not as good as the rest of them. So yeah, sorry for that, I was really sleepy and tired. For the last one, we have Jim from Treasure Planet, who as far as I know is the protagonist of the movie, which, as I've mentioned, I haven't seen. It's a shame because from what I have heard, it's a really good movie. Since this is the last one, it had to be the darkest and creepiest of all, so I started thinking. What I knew was that I couldn't change the character too much, because if I did, it might not even be recognizable as him. And the whole point of this video is for the characters to still be recognizable, just in a darker style and vibe. So I figured I'd make about 20% of changes towards a darker tone and leave the rest as it is. So I decided to take the easy and smart route and change the eyes and the mouth, since these areas are the most expressive in humans, which makes them what we recognize the most in each other. So, if I left everything else the same and only changed these two features, it would create a sort of uncanny valley. Well, Not exactly, but you get the idea. By transforming the mouth and the eyes into something strange and terrifying, we end up with something we recognize, but instinctively know something is wrong. Something bad, something dark and dangerous, something you should stay away from. I also wanted to give him a weird expression, uncomfortable, a forced smile with furrowed brows. And I really like this decision, because it looks as if he is possessed, being forced, yet there's still a bit of him in control, which let us see that feeling of suffering. I tried to execute all of this as best as I could, and after an hour and a quarter, this is the result, and I love it. It's really cool to see how sometimes simple things and changes make a big difference. It only took 2 changes in the face to make this look dark and creepy. Obviously I could have done more work in the render part, not only on this one, but on the others. But I think it's more important to play with the first stages of the drawing, make interesting designs and choices, discover yourself a little bit, and let room for failure. I really like the early stages of making a painting, so I'm focusing on that. Well, I hope you liked the art and enjoyed the video. That's all for me. A hug to everyone. Bye!